Shedeur Sanders comes into Cleveland as a fifth-round rookie. But he wasn't just any rookie. He was Coach Prime's son. He was already a brand, already a storyline, already someone who could move the needle before he even took a snap. And then he plays. He actually plays. And what does he do? He delivers. Poise in the pocket. Quick decision-making. Accuracy under pressure. He looked like someone who belonged.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His preseason debut wasn't just watched, it was a spectacle. 2.2 million viewers tuned in for a preseason game. Do you understand how insane that is? People don't even watch Thursday night football sometimes. And here comes Shedeur, turning a meaningless preseason quarter into appointment television. The fans were sold. The media was buzzing. For a moment, the Cleveland Browns weren't the punchline, they were the headline. And all that electricity, came from one player, Shedeur Sanders. But what did the Browns do with that momentum? Did they build around it? Did they lean in and say, here's our guy, here's our future, let's invest in him? Nope. They buried him. Fourth string. Behind a 40-year-old Joe Flacco, behind an inconsistent Kenny Pickett, behind Dillon Gabriel. The same Gabriel who managed to turn an off-season rivalry with Shedeur into a national embarrassment. Fourth string. The kid who just brought more eyeballs to Cleveland football than anyone since LeBron James is holding a clipboard while fans are chanting his name. Now here's where things get ugly. Because insiders are whispering that this isn't an accident. This isn't incompetence. This is a plan. The Browns, instead of developing Shedeur, instead of giving him the reps he needs, instead of treating him like the franchise quarterback he could become, are pumping up his brand value. Selling jerseys. Generating buzz. Drawing clicks. And then, trading him. Think about how twisted that is. Using a young player's name, his family's legacy, his cultural impact, not to win games, not to compete, but to move merchandise, and then flip him like a business asset. That's not football. That's exploitation. And the craziest part? It fits the Browns' history perfectly. This is a team that has wasted quarterback after quarterback, chewed through coaches like sunflower seeds, and turned dysfunction into their entire identity. But this? Trading Shedeur before he even gets a chance to start? That would be a new low. Because Shedeur isn't just another guy. He's not some anonymous draft pick who can be tossed around like an extra chess piece. He's bigger than that. He's a cultural phenomenon. His name means something. His brand travels outside of football, into fashion, into endorsements, into music, into culture. When you trade someone like Shedeur, you're not just moving a quarterback. You're moving a movement. And the fans know it. That's why the backlash is already bubbling. They see the writing on the wall. They see the comments from Kevin Stefanski talking about how we can't keep 4 quarterbacks forever. They see how Shedeur hasn't gotten real first-team reps despite outshining Gabriel. They see the way the Browns keep parading Joe Flacco out there like it's still 2012. And they know this team is about to do something stupid. Let's be real. If the Browns actually pull this off, if they trade Shedeur Sanders, they'll regret it for the rest of their franchise history. Because you can bet that wherever Shedeur lands, whether it's Vegas, Dallas, Atlanta, or San Francisco, he'll get a real shot. And when he thrives, when he starts winning, when he starts selling out stadiums, Cleveland will be left with the same old story. The one that got away. And man, can you imagine that regret? Browns fans watching Shedeur light it up in another city, while their team is still fumbling around with stopgap quarterbacks and half-baked rebuilds? That's not just painful. That's unforgivable. But here's the thing. It's not just about football performance anymore. This whole saga proves something much bigger. The NFL isn't just about yards and touchdowns. It's about influence. It's about attention. It's about who can own the conversation. And Shedeur Sanders owns it. Look at what he's already done. Without even being the starter, he's been the headline. Without even having a full season, he's turned the Browns into a trending topic. Without even being on the field consistently, he's had analysts, ex-players, and fans debating his name every single week. And the Browns' response? Bury him. Suppress him. Treat him like a pawn instead of the king he could be. That's why this rumored trade feels so insidious. Because it's not just about roster management, it's about priorities. Do you care about winning, or do you care about control? Do you care about developing stars, or do you care about maintaining your fragile ego as a franchise? Right now, the Browns look like they care more about business than football. They look like they'd rather milk Shedur's name for a quick financial pop than invest in him long-term. And that decision will come back to haunt them. Fans are already furious. Social media is a war zone. Every post about the quarterback room is flooded with demands. Start Shedur. Free Shedur. Stop wasting Shedur. You think that's going to quiet down if they trade him? No way. It'll explode. Jerseys will be burned. Ticket sales will plummet. The backlash will make the decision look like a minor breakup. And let's not ignore the cultural piece. Because Shedur Sanders doesn't just carry the Sanders name. He carries what it represents. Legacy, swagger, breaking barriers. His father reshaped football culture, and now Shedur has a chance to do the same. And you mean to tell me the Browns are ready to just throw that away? If that's true, it's not just bad management, it's malpractice. But maybe, just maybe, this is all smoke. Maybe the Browns aren't that foolish. Maybe they're floating these rumors to test the market, but deep down, they know they can't actually pull the trigger. Because if they do, they won't just be trading a player. They'll be trading away their last shred of credibility. And Cleveland doesn't have much credibility left to lose. So here we are, on the brink of another Browns disaster. Fans waiting, watching, praying that their team won't make the same mistake again. Shedur stuck in limbo, wondering if the franchise he was supposed to save is about to betray him. And ownership, once again, playing games with the one thing they can't afford to gamble. Hope. Because that's what Shedur Sanders represents. Hope. For a franchise that has known nothing but heartbreak. For a city that deserves better. For fans who have stayed loyal despite decades of misery. And if the Browns trade that away, they're not just losing a quarterback. They're losing their soul. If Cleveland really thinks they can just slip Shedur Sanders out the back door and call it business as usual, they're about to get a reality check. Because this wouldn't just be a roster move. This would be an earthquake. It would ripple across the league, shake fan bases, disrupt locker rooms, and force the NFL itself to confront the new power dynamics of modern football. Let's start with the most obvious fallout, the fans. You think Browns fans are tough on coaches now? You think they're frustrated about the Deshaun Watson saga or the endless cycle of failed quarterbacks? Multiply that anger by 10, because Shedur Sanders represents the one thing they've been starved of, a future. Shedur isn't a 40-year-old stopgap. He isn't a random journeyman QB trying to extend his career. He's the kid who came in, played with poise, and immediately made people believe. You can sell hope in the NFL for decades if you have the right guy. Look at how Chicago Bears fans clung to Justin Fields even when he struggled. Shedur isn't struggling. He's shining. And the Browns are apparently ready to cash him in like a scratch-off ticket. Fans won't forgive that. They'll revolt. Stadium boos, jersey burnings, empty seats, banners flying overhead during games. It's all on the table. The dog pound isn't exactly known for subtlety. And if they smell betrayal, they're not going to sit quietly. They'll howl. But it won't stop there. The players will feel it too. Because what message does it send when you bury the most promising guy on your roster and then dangle him as trade bait? It tells every man in that locker room that you're not serious about winning. That you value control, PR spin, and quick financial hits over building something real. Guys like Myles Garrett, who've bled for this team, will see that and think, why should I waste my prime here if they're going to treat the next generation the same way? And don't think the veterans around the league aren't watching either. Word travels fast. Agents talk. Players talk. And if Cleveland starts to look like the franchise that sabotages talent for marketing schemes, free agents are going to cross them off their list. No one wants to join a circus. Now, let's talk about the NFL itself. Because as much as this league pretends every franchise is independent, the reality is the Shield cares about ratings, storylines, and relevance. And Shedur Sanders is ratings gold. His name alone trends. His highlights go viral. His father brings eyeballs from every corner of sports culture. The NFL has stumbled into a generational marketing gift. And you think they're going to sit quietly while Cleveland shuffles him off like dead weight? Don't be surprised if league execs quietly step in behind the scenes, nudging the Browns not to pull the trigger. Because losing Shedeur in Cleveland isn't just a Browns problem. It's an NFL problem. It risks alienating a young, diverse audience that actually sees themselves in Shedeur and his story. But let's say Cleveland ignores all that. Let's say they really do it. Let's say they ship him off. What happens next? Chaos. Because every single quarterback-needy team in the league is going to smell blood in the water. Think about the Raiders. Vegas is desperate for a star who can fill seats in that shiny stadium. Shedeur in silver and black? That's not just a quarterback move. That's a Showtime residency. Think about Atlanta. A young black quarterback with swagger and confidence. In a city that thrives on culture and star power? The Falcons' marketing team would have billboards up before the ink on the trade papers dried. Think about Dallas. Jerry Jones is obsessed with headlines, and Dak Prescott's future is constantly debated. You don't think Jerry would move heaven and earth to bring Prime's son to America's team? That's the kind of thing Jerry dreams about. Or imagine San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan with Shedeur Sanders? A quarterback who can already read defenses, stay calm under pressure, and execute with accuracy? That's a dynasty brewing. Wherever Shedeur goes, he'll be given the keys. He'll be given first-team reps, real development, and a chance to shine. And if he thrives, when he thrives, Cleveland will be the butt of jokes for decades. They'll be the team that had him and threw him away. And here's the thing. Shedeur himself isn't blind to any of this. He's smart. He's media savvy. He knows his name has weight. And if the Browns are really trying to treat him like a pawn, don't be shocked if he pushes back. Players today aren't like players 20 years ago. They don't just sit quietly while teams toy with them. They use their platforms. They control their own narratives. Imagine Shedeur on Instagram Live, hinting at his frustrations. Imagine him dropping a vague but cutting comment during a podcast. Sometimes, it feels like teams don't want you to succeed. That's all it would take. The fans would riot. The media would amplify it. The Browns would be forced into the spotlight with nowhere to hide. And let's not forget his father. Deion Sanders has never been shy about speaking his mind. If he feels like his son is being mistreated, if he thinks the Browns are playing games with Shedeur's career, you better believe he'll say something. And when Deion talks, people listen. That would turn this situation from a sports story into a full-on cultural conversation. So the Browns are playing a dangerous game. Because if they trade Shedeur, they're not just losing a player. They're sparking a revolution. They're putting themselves at the center of a storm that they cannot possibly control. And here's what makes it all so absurd. They don't even need to do this. They have the guy. They already have the quarterback who could change everything. They don't need to invent a future. They're holding it in their hands. All they have to do is trust him, develop him, put him on the field. But instead, they're flirting with betrayal. And betrayal in sports has a long memory. Just ask Boston about Babe Ruth. Ask Charlotte about Kobe Bryant. Ask Portland about passing on Michael Jordan. These things don't go away. They haunt you forever. If Cleveland trades Shedeur Sanders, it won't just be another misstep. It'll be the misstep. The one fans never forgive. The one the league never forgets. The one that defines their reputation for another 50 years. Because this isn't just football anymore. It's legacy. It's culture. It's the future of the NFL. And if the Browns can't see that, if they're really willing to throw it all away for short-term control and a few extra jersey sales, then they deserve every ounce of ridicule coming their way. The only question left is this. Will they pull the trigger, or will they finally break the cycle? Because if they choose wrong, Shedeur Sanders won't just walk out of Cleveland. He'll sprint into history, and the Browns will be left holding the bag. Here's the thing about the Shedeur Sanders situation. It's not just about a quarterback battle anymore. It's about trust. Trust between the team and its players, trust between ownership and fans, trust between the NFL and the people who keep the lights on, us. And right now, that trust is cracking. Because when fans hear whispers about the Browns using Shedeur as nothing more than a marketing pawn, keeping him fourth on the depth chart while milking his name for jersey sales, they feel betrayed. This isn't just bad roster management. This is exploitation dressed up as strategy. And betrayal has consequences. Start with the Cleveland fan base. This is a group of people who have suffered through decades of false promises, failed rebuilds, and quarterback experiments that fizzled out faster than a cheap firework. From Johnny Manziel's circus to Deshaun Watson's controversy, Browns fans have been through it all. And now, they're seeing the same patterns. They're seeing a front office that doesn't learn, a coaching staff that doesn't trust talent, and an ownership group that's more interested in PR headlines than wins on the field. That's why the chants are already bubbling up. Free Shedeur. Fire Stefanski. Trade the owner before you trade Shedeur. These aren't just jokes, they're pressure points. And if the Browns actually move forward with trading their most marketable rookie since Baker Mayfield, those chants will become roars. But it's not just about Cleveland anymore. This story has already gone national. When you bring Deion Sanders into the conversation, even indirectly, you guarantee cultural impact. Because Deion is not just a football legend, he's an institution. And if his son is mistreated, you can bet he'll weigh in. His voice alone has the power to turn this from a Brown-specific scandal into an NFL-wide embarrassment. Imagine Deion on ESPN, calling out the Browns for stifling young talent. Imagine him reminding everyone that Shedeur was already a star before he ever set foot in Cleveland, and that his future is bigger than one dysfunctional franchise. The media would eat it up. Fans outside of Cleveland, people who don't even care about the Browns, would rally around Shedeur. Suddenly, this isn't just a team decision. It's a cultural flashpoint. And that's where the NFL itself gets dragged into the mess. Because the league thrives on stars. They need faces of the game. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, they're the engines of modern football. And Shedeur Sanders, whether the Browns want to admit it or not, has the potential to join that list. He has the name, the swagger, the media magnetism, and, let's not forget, the actual skill set. If the NFL allows Cleveland to bury him or trade him prematurely, it raises a bigger question. Is the league protecting its future stars or letting outdated franchises sabotage them? That's a dangerous conversation for the Shield, especially in a moment when the NFL is trying to appeal to younger fans, more diverse audiences, and international markets. Shedeur fits that mission perfectly, and Cleveland is fumbling the bag. But here's another angle that isn't being talked about enough: the locker room politics. Picture yourself as a player on that team. You're sweating through practice, watching Shedeur drop dimes in scrimmages, watching the buzz build around him. And then you hear rumors that the front office is planning to ship him off. How do you react? Do you trust your coaches when they tell you they want to win? Do you believe ownership when they claim they're building something sustainable? Probably not, because it looks like politics is being put ahead of performance. And once players start to believe decisions are about ego and marketing rather than merit, the locker room fractures. And fractured locker rooms don't win games. Now let's talk about what happens after a trade, because that's where this gets really juicy. You know what happens when you underestimate a star and let him go. He thrives somewhere else. History is filled with these cautionary tales. Drew Brees was let go by the Chargers because of injury concerns. He went on to rewrite NFL history in New Orleans. Brett Favre was a third stringer in Atlanta before Green Bay stole him. Cleveland itself once passed on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in the draft, taking other safer players. You think they don't regret that now? If Shedeur lands in the right system, a team that gives him real reps, real investment, and real belief, he could take off. And the worse the Browns perform without him, the more brutal the comparisons will be. ESPN will roll split screens. Shedeur tossing touchdowns in Vegas, while Cleveland trots out Joe Flacco for another 6-11 season. Twitter will drown in memes. And fans will never, ever forgive that betrayal. But there's another layer here: Shedeur's own brand power. See, the Browns might think they hold all the cards because they own his contract. But Shedeur doesn't need them the way they need him. He already has a national following. He already has endorsement potential. He already has a platform. If the Browns bench him, trade him, or sideline him, Shedeur can flip the narrative overnight. One podcast appearance, one Instagram live, one well-placed comment in an interview. Suddenly, he's the victim of a dysfunctional franchise, and fans everywhere will see him as the underdog hero being held back by a bad system. Now, let's zoom out even more. What does this say about the future of quarterback competition in the NFL? Because what we're watching isn't just a football story. It's the collision of old-school power structures with new-school player empowerment. The old NFL wanted quarterbacks to keep quiet, earn their stripes, and wait for their turn. The new NFL is built for personalities like Shedeur, who can control their own storylines, connect directly with fans, and build hype faster than any PR department ever could. That's why this trade rumor feels so wild. Because it's not just about whether Shedeur is QB1 material. It's about whether the NFL itself is ready to embrace this new era of transparency and personality-driven branding, or whether franchises like the Browns are going to keep trying to suppress it. And let's be real, suppression doesn't work anymore. Fans see everything. They know when a player is being held back. They know when the politics are louder than the performance. And once that trust is broken, you can't tape it back together. So where does that leave us? The Browns are standing at a crossroads. On one side, they have the chance to develop Shedeur Sanders into not just their franchise quarterback, but a cultural icon who could redefine their entire identity. On the other side, they have the temptation to cash him out, treat him like a short-term marketing scheme, and send him packing for draft picks and salary cap space. One path leads to relevance. The other leads to ridicule. And here's the kicker. Everyone knows which choice they'll probably make. Because it's Cleveland. And if there's one thing Cleveland has mastered, it's finding new and innovative ways to sabotage itself. But here's the irony. If they do trade Shedeur, they might just create the very star they're trying to suppress. Because Shedeur's story isn't ending in Cleveland. It's just beginning. And whether he's wearing brown and orange or another jersey, he's going to be the headline. He's going to be the conversation. He's going to be the guy who proves, once again, that the Browns had it in their hands and let it slip away.